Hello, everyone. We're just going to give everyone another minute to connect. So we'll be waiting just a little while before we start our webinar. Okay, so I think we still have guests connecting, but we will give it. We will kick off now and leave time for people to continue to connect as we do the introductions. So from me, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. Welcome to the February edition of our Keys webinar for our clients from all around the world. Today, we will explore the implications of the surge of e-commerce, accelerated, of course, by COVID-19, as we have all seen. We will see how consumers are reacting, and we will reflect together on how omnichannel strategies need to adapt. We have speakers today sitting in 5 different countries, and we're going to start with Simon, who is in the UK, and he will update us on a couple of new Ipsos resources that are available to everyone right away to help you and us all understand and navigate the current context. Then, in Time for Acceleration, Time for Understanding, Hélène will take us through the big questions businesses need to ask themselves as they consider how to evolve their strategies. Then, in Changing Consumer Contours with Chris, we will look at new research on how people are changing the way they move from offline to online, digital and physical for a lot of what they do all around the world. We will then move to South Korea, where Jaeyoung will share a fresh analysis on new digital lifestyles from his very high-tech country. And finally, with Does Your Online Experience Deliver? Yana will help us reflect on how important it is for businesses to consider how users feel when they try to get things done online. And with that, I will pass over to Simon to kick off our webinar. Simon, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It's great to have you with us. As Jennifer says, I'm just going to spend a moment introducing you to a couple of new resources which we hope will help us all navigate this evolving context in which we're all operating. The first picks up on the last webinar when we were together at the end of January. Those of you who were with us then will recall that my colleague Sarah Castell presented new analysis by our team where they were looking ahead to 2025, looking at what's certain, looking at what's uncertain, and starting to think about the different pathways to 2025 and beyond that. And their report has recently been published. The second thing in terms of what's new and what's relevant in our current environment, of course, is the story of the year being the vaccine rollout in some countries, at least around the world. And a couple of things just to mention there. And I think that the big thing that I think we can reflect on is that could shape what happens from 2025 and beyond, because its success will in some ways determine the medium-term pathway we're going to see. But it's also a reminder for those of us researching in today's environment just how fluid public opinion and behaviour is, and we'll see some of this later from the presentations, because when we're looking at attitudes to vaccines, towards the end of last year we were very much focusing on this question of hesitancy. Now, of course, that hasn't gone away, but certainly it's been joined more, let's say, by vaccine interest and vaccine anticipation, or maybe even vaccine frustration when the rollout isn't as quick as people would like. So I share with you the resources from both the 2025 report and the vaccines resources that we have available, because I think they do set the scene, and they set the scene potentially for where we go next. As Jennifer says, we're really looking at e-commerce today, at e-commerce acceleration, And there are three reports that we're launching to accompany this webinar. The first one gives a real panorama of the retail environment and the different offline and online elements that we, of course, need to be really on, and that's something we'll touch on again in this webinar. The second one talks about face masks, something which, however successful the vaccine rollout is going to be, will be with us for some time. And our team has been looking at what that means in the context of customer experience, and in particular, in search of those magic masked moments. So have a look out for those. And the third report, we're launching a major piece of work looking at South Korea, written by our team on the ground, and we're delighted to have Jaeyoung with us to share his perspectives in a moment. So those resources will all be available on the website for this webinar. But to dive into the topic now, I'm delighted that I'm able to introduce my colleague, Hélène. She's been really thinking about this topic of e-commerce, of omnichannel, the dynamics in which everybody is operating, and thinking about what it means for brands to be successful both today and tomorrow. So Hélène, it's great to have you with us, and thanks for sharing your perspectives on this very fluid environment.
Thank you, Simon. And yes, surely COVID-19 has been a huge accelerator to a digital transformation that was already underway across many sectors, opening the floodgates to omnichannel living. So for many consumers, this has meant getting access to a whole range of new experiences online, but also combined with offline. And we'll see some illustration of this later in this session. But for companies, this means, and this should mean, really revisiting their strategy as a whole. It's not just about selling online as an activity that would sit on the side. It's really about rethinking your entire business across multiple dimensions. This is well illustrated by Connie Browns here from Unilever, who says that the role of e-commerce should be central to the overall customer journey. And with e-commerce, you need to think end-to-end and of the impact of your entire marketing mix. Your portfolio, price, product, place, but also your content creation, your media strategy, and of course, your supply chain. For retailers, it's also about time to reinvent themselves. The CEO of Walmart highlights here how consumer wants one seamless experience with them. And for retailers, this means that on one hand, they need to keep expanding their ability to serve consumers in stores while broadening their e-commerce assortments and making sure that the two components are consistent and complementary to deliver that seamless experience. So businesses need to evolve their strategy. They need to do this fast and across all dimensions. And with Omnichannel, the goal and the opportunity is really to activate the right content to the right audience with the right touch points and at the right moments. And to do that, we need to think holistically and to identify the role that our brands can play in this equation. So to achieve this, we see four main pillars. First, diagnose. It's really understanding how the consumer experience is evolving in a given sector. What are the consumer needs, motivations, touch points on the journey? And is my brand delivering a consistent experience across channels? Then innovate is key. Yes, it's about optimizing your products, portfolio pack to be successful in the new channels and across channels, but it's also an opportunity to create new experiences for your consumers, compelling digital apps or subscription models, and have a direct access to them. The third pillar is about communicate, and here what is at stake is really creating an emotional bonding and the personalization to meet your shopper-specific profiles. Finally, activate, it's about optimizing the user online experience and to further build loyalty and advocacy with consumers. But underlying all this, what is really critical to evolving channel strategy is really understanding the human and the human experience. In an environment that is increasingly driven by technology, it's sometimes easy to lose sight of the people. And yet it's one person that's going to explore the options, the product, the services that you want to offer. Well, in fact, a lot of people don't feel at ease in an online environment. Our numbers shows that with the exception of China, a great number of people are increasingly encountering difficulties when shopping online. So keeping the human experience at the core will be critical to develop solutions that will have a positive impact on your brand experience and on your performance overall. And with that in mind, we wanted to share some of those human experiences with you with a short video done by our team, ethnographic team, who's been following 30 households across 6 countries for almost a year now. These latest accounts shine light on their real-life shopping experiences in recent weeks. After the film, Chris will be taking the story forward with our latest survey data.
I'm sorry, there was a little bit of an echo for me on that video, but hopefully the key message was still quite clear. So happy to hand over to Chris for a bit more in-depth understanding of what people are feeling.
Very good. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris, and it's so nice to get to visit with you again. Now, the video that we just shared gives us some insights not only into adjusting shopping habits, but it also sheds some light on our panelists' overall mood and outlook. As you saw, the mood is a bit different from country to country. So we're going to take just a little step back and talk about the changing contours of our general outlook and the contours of our changing shopping patterns. So to do that, we're going to be using our very recent data from Essentials, which is our global syndicated tracker of attitudes and behaviors. And every couple of weeks, we go out and connect with 1,000 people per country in 16 major markets. And as you just saw, we also do parallel ethnographic work. Now, many of you have seen this visual before, where we ask people to classify themselves into one of 8 groupings that's best describing where they stand in their personal crisis journey. Now, for months, we've been saying some pretty discouraging things about the elliptical shape of the reentry process. After we saw some positive steps late last summer, unfortunately, over the fall and early winter, we've seen citizens move back to earlier phases. So I finally have something encouraging to say to you here. For the first time in months, we see some progress on the recovery curve, with more people now saying they've moved into phases where they can foresee restrictions being lifted, or that they're starting to do some things that were restricted before. And we'll take the good news where we can get it, right? Now, you probably sensed a but coming, and here it is. So reentry, normality, not equal. Almost nobody right now is feeling normal at the moment. And as you can see here, over 4 in 5 think it's going to be at least until the fall, until it starts to feel normal again. And that estimated time for a return to normal, it continues to just stretch out and out into more of a distant and kind of retreating horizon. And I'm not showing the tracking data to you right now, but let's just say the goalposts keep moving on this thing. They just keep pushing out more and more with every wave of data collection. I think it makes sense, you know, as the new variants emerge and transmit, we seem to be reassessing the timing to and the nature of this word normal. As many of us feel, I think our ethnography participant here on the right is summing this up quite well. He's acknowledging that we do face huge uncertainty, and that to a degree, predictions are kind of futile. So we're moving forward, but into what exactly? We're not sure. So with that as a partly sunny, partly cloudy backdrop or forecast, let's look to see what Essentials can tell us about shopping adjustments. Now, just a moment ago, you saw a video of this very creative and pragmatic Russian couple who told us we used to have a sofa in our living room, but we replaced the living room sofa with this bed, and we bought it online. Now, that's quite an adjustment, right? Kind of a modern day John and Yoko. But they're not the only ones shopping online. Almost a third of global citizens are telling us this is now their primary buying channel, not shopping channel, buying channel. And remember those 8 phases I showed you just a minute ago. You might think that that 31% would go down as people progress to opening up and restart phases, but that doesn't happen. It stays stable. So that's an indicator to us that this behavior is likely here to stay. We've also shown here that 59% of our sample are telling us that they're taking active measures to limit their in-store exposure. Now, those numbers are highest, as you might expect, in countries that have had the greatest health challenges of late, like South Africa and Brazil and Mexico. But just building on this point, we also see internationally that shopping at standalone stores and malls really went down a good bit in December, and then it's kind of plateaued at that lower level thus far in the new year. Now, again, when we ask people where they're buying the majority of things they need, that global average says 31% to online, right? And that's what's being depicted on the far left. But as you can see here, there are some big differences by country when you focus on that green bar. There's a lot more online activity going on in places like South Korea and China, and then there are lower levels in other countries. Now, we're going to take you for a much deeper dive into South Korea a bit later in the webinar, so I'll leave it at this for now. Now, in this chart, we're looking at shopping channel by category, right? So it's a little bit different question this time. Now we're asking, for each of these categories, are you buying in-store only? Are you buying online only? Or is it a hybrid? And so what you're seeing here is that those who say, I'm just buying in-store for a given category, that's depicted in blue. For folks who are only buying online, that's depicted in green. And if it's a combination, that's depicted in gold. And as you can see, grocery shopping still skews in-store. That's the bar there to the left. And that's what we saw in the video. But more durable, high involvement goods tend to tilt much more heavily to online or hybrid shopping. All right, now this was a little bit of a creative move, but we asked our online community members to either write a love letter or a breakup letter with retailers. And if we focus our attention on the left side of the screen, you'll see that Amazon gets a very nice love letter here where the person says, hey, I can count on you. You're not perfect, but you've been honest, you've been respectful and kind, and you've made me trust that shopping online can actually work. If we turn our attention to the right, you see that another big box retailer gets a less flattering letter where the person says, I hate your lines, I hate the parking lot, I don't like the selection, I hate that you tell me that you're into safety and yet when I go to your store, nobody's wearing a mask. So yeah, not the sunniest picture there. But in showing just these two examples, we're not trying to convey that all the kinks have been worked out of the online shopping system, nor that all in-store shopping experiences are miserable. Far from it. In fact, we know that a lot of people really treasure and miss that tangible multi-sensory in-store experience. And as you can see here, over 2/3 of our global sample report hiccups with online shopping. So despite the growth in the activity, there are still some growing pains. And Yana is going to go really deep on those challenges later in the webinar, so I'm not going to linger here on this slide for the moment. So in a lot of ways, our ethnography participant from the US, Chanel, she was the last person you heard from in the video. She sums a lot of what I just shared up in just a few choice words here, right? She says, look, I do shop online a lot more than in person. I go to the store when I absolutely have to, but I feel like I only get out of the house about once a month. So everything else, I just buy online. And to quote her, I just sit in this bed and ta-da! So for those of you who might say Americans and Russians don't have anything in common, I got to disagree, because I think we've got plenty of evidence here that says we got a lot in common these days. Just like that Russian couple that was sitting on their bed, she's doing the same thing, right? We're sitting on our beds and we're ordering stuff online all day. So just to recap this bit, I think it is fair to say that the contours of the crisis are indeed shifting. Yes, we're moving forward, but with kind of an extending and evolving set of expectations about the definition and timing of the word normal. Now, I think we've got plenty of evidence that says some of the behaviors from the last year are going to stick, online behavior being chief amongst them. We do think that we've got evidence that would say that this is going to indeed stick in the long term. And just to amplify something that Hélène said before, it's just never been more important for brands to activate the right content to the right audience with the right touch points and at the right moment. And as they're doing that, it's so important to keep the human experience at the center of the activity. And I like the way Hélène said it, it's easy to lose sight of people, but being sensitive to their current plight is so central to success here. So with that, I thank you so much for your attendance and attention, and back over to you in the studio, Jennifer.
Thanks so much, Chris. And definitely interesting to see all those differences across countries, across categories, lots of love and hate going on at different levels. So clearly this idea of keeping the human experience very central is definitely key. I wonder if you have any tips in terms of how do we really do that? How do we make sure we're keeping that human experience at the center of our thinking as we make decisions in these areas?
Yeah, I think we have to be sensitive to the fact that many of us have been in just relative isolation, right, and seclusion now for about a year. So there's a lot of pent up social energy and just this craving for personal connection. And so, if you're thinking of this as a brand leader and thinking back to some of what Hélène shared before, I think you want to be really thinking about your touch points and saying, is there anything that we're doing right now that could come off as impersonal? And if so, what can we do to make that feel more humane, more connected? I think about the way a lot of small business customers deal with their local banks here in the United States. And historically, they tend to visit their branches personally and do a lot of their business with the bank in person. So obviously, in the past year, they haven't been able to do that. So I think a lot of the local banks have done a nice job figuring out ways to maintain those connections, making sure small business customers have a way of speaking live, with someone at the bank, and even checking in on how customers are doing. In the long run, people will remember those very humane touches that banks are using in this time.
Great, thanks for that tip. So another thing that you mentioned to me a while ago was that you have noticed that some people feel less secluded and a bit more connected than others, although everyone is in this difficult moment, as you were saying. Could you expand on that?
Yeah, we monitor emotions very carefully in our ongoing survey, and so from time to time we'll go in and see, hey, which groups are feeling good, which ones are feeling a little more bleak, and some of it's what you would expect, right? People who are financially secure, people with children at home, they feel more of a sense of optimism and connection. But one of the groups that really emerged that surprised me a little bit, we took a look at the world at work and the sectors in which people work. And one of the things we found was that people who feel really engaged at their jobs are also much happier. And specifically, some of the sectors where that really spiked were places where people work with their hands. They're either making things or they're fixing things, working for companies like construction firms, utilities, manufacturing firms. They're much more engaged right now and just feeling better in general. So there's something to this notion of accomplishing something tangible from which people are taking joy right now.
Great, thanks a lot, Chris. And now we will travel fast from the US to South Korea. And very happy to have you with us, Jaeyoung, and to hear what you have to tell us about digital lifestyles in your country. Over to you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, hello everyone. Good evening from Korea. Change in digital life was accelerated due to the COVID-19, and of course, this is not a story that applies only to South Korea. But in Korea, many changes are taking place in various areas of the digital economy, such as entertainment, shopping, healthcare, education, and so on. I'd like to introduce some interesting changes from Korea, which I couldn't expect before. At first, I would like to talk a little about changes in online entertainment. Although the movie theater is still open, people nowadays are reluctant to visit and want to spend more time indoors watching YouTube or OTT services such as Netflix. And one of the comments that I remember from my recent project is that she turns on YouTube as soon as she wakes up, even though she wouldn't have much time to actually watch the screen because she has to prepare for work in the morning. But she said that she just opens YouTube, just like she used TV or radio before. So now digital media is not just for entertainment or information, but is becoming a partner for their daily life. Even more, people started to watch concert, performance, and musicals online, which we had previously watched offline. Maybe some of you are aware of the Korean K-pop boy band BTS. They hosted a virtual concert several times for their global fans. And I saw the news that one of their concerts reached up to 750,000 of simultaneous viewers. Also, web musicals are getting attention in Korea. And let me move on to the main topic of e-commerce. Even before the pandemic, Korea was ranked 5th in market size. And if we consider the total size of the Korean economy, penetration ratio is one of the highest. So I could say Korean people favor contactless culture and very used to shopping online. But after the pandemic, I think it's very interesting to see not only quantitative growth, but also changes in shopping patterns that we didn't think was possible before. And this behavioral change is also characterized by different age groups. We all know that one of the important benefits of online shopping is convenience. But some product categories need more than this. I think grocery is a good example because freshness is more important. So I thought this category cannot be replaced well. But after the pandemic, people started to buy their grocery food online. And it's more noticeable among older generations in their 40s and 50s. And at this point, there is a new delivery system named Early Morning Delivery Service. This service was introduced by a new startup company named Market Curly. It's a service where if you order the grocery before 11 p.m., they promise to deliver it by next day 7 in the morning. With this, customers can get fresh food and vegetables just in time to prepare their breakfast with extreme convenience. As more time is spent at home, sales of their service have more than doubled. At the moment, many companies are trying to introduce similar service from major e-commerce companies and also from the traditional offline supermarkets. And an interesting thing is that companies are not competing with their platform brand, but trying to compete with their delivery service brands such as Morningstar Delivery, Rocket Fresh, Flash Delivery. And one more thing that boosts this service is that customers are allowed to purchase in small amounts. Minimum amount for delivery is just $5 and no delivery fee is charged when more than $10 are spent, which are more suitable for single household. For young people, some category shopping like clothes or accessories has the purpose of hanging out with friends and having fun, unlike purchasing it at a convenience store. So I thought this kind of shopping was also difficult to be replaced online. But as outdoor activities are restricted by lockdown, this shopping is also being replaced by online shopping, mainly by ECommerce platform. Maybe some of you are not familiar with this. This platform is gaining great attention and growing as a new shopping culture in South Korea. Simply defined, it's the combination of streaming video and e-commerce. It's also called mobile home shopping, since it's a platform that incorporates live broadcasting methods for selling goods and services via mobile app. And one of the most important features of this platform is real-time interactivity. When the seller introduces the products, viewers can freely ask questions and the seller provides relevant explanation or demonstration. The seller can also offer prompt events such as live auction. So by integrating live streaming into this platform, these marketplaces can deliver the closest experience to being there for customers, and also it's fun. So in this lockdown, this platform is replacing shopping offline. And in fact, in South Korea, many companies are trying to enter this market from the traditional e-commerce company, portal site, or messenger companies, and so on. So these days, I see many surprising changes in Korea. People are getting more familiar with online environment and don't hesitate to have new experience online. And it's well supported by companies in ways of technologies and new services. That's it from Korea. I hand back to Jennifer.
Thanks a lot for taking us on this tour of your country, Jaeyoung. That was great. I was wondering if you'd like to share anything that you personally have changed in the way you're doing things over the past few months.
Yeah, sure. I tried early morning delivery service last year for the first time, and it was a great experience. I really felt like the world is changing. My son's school had a play at the end of last year, and I just watched it online at home. But actually, I haven't experienced live commerce platform. As I mentioned, it's used more from younger generation, and unfortunately, I'm not that generation, so I didn't experience that. Yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot for sharing your personal experience as well. And now I'm going to hand over to Yana, who is going to tell us how important it is to take into account the challenges that people have with online shopping. So Yana, over to you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Jennifer. So I am Yana Beranek, and I'm an SVP of UX focused on e-commerce for our clients at Ipsos. The past year has seen changes and innovations for so many businesses in how they serve their customers. Many have had to find ways to deliver their core products and services virtually with no real blueprint for how to make that transformation. Reacting to those changes has caused a lot of organizations to jump to the solution without clearly understanding how to design a great experience that's centered on the consumer. So I think it's a good time to take a pause to understand what consumers really think about the current state of e-commerce experiences and how we can improve them. First, you should be aware that for consumers, the website experience is second only to price value for factors that influence store choice. A good experience is key to attracting shoppers. Second, it's important to understand that many experiences are not easy or intuitive. We're seeing a lot of people exploring e-commerce, but about 10% of new users said they couldn't even figure out how to use those online tools to shop. And if they did figure out how to use them, half were unsatisfied. So let's talk about what consumers want. What are they expecting? And why are they unsatisfied? What would make the experience more useful for them? Frankly, they want the same things from an e-commerce experience that they would like to have when they shop in store. For example, finding things should be easy. In most cases, shoppers have an idea of what they're looking for, but they don't always know where to find it. If you imagine shopping in a grocery store that you don't normally go to, shopping for groceries online can feel a lot like that. In a recent study where we looked at the user experience of grocery delivery apps, we found that most shoppers default to keyword searching because trying to navigate the menus and groupings of a grocery store app just wasn't intuitive. Then, once shoppers find the category they're looking for, they often discover more than one product that might suit them, and they want to compare. But sites often fail to provide an easy tool to make the choice. We recently saw this when we tested 2 online channels for the same retailer in China. Shoppers preferred the e-commerce experience that helped them more easily compare products by letting them select the products and review them side by side. Often, the only way to see products side by side is in the grocery cart. And then, consumers lose visibility to the benefits that captured their attention in the first place. It needs to be easier. It's also hard to know if a product you're looking at online is right for you when you can't touch, feel, or try it. Whether it's the color, the size, the scent, or the texture, it's hard to know just by a picture. That's when reviews and testimonials from trusted people make a big difference. It's the way people are assessing things virtually. We've run studies globally that show the importance of having trusted local influencers. And depending on the market, there are also differences between wanting the opinions of experts, like we see in South Korea, versus the opinions of people like me or people I relate to, which is more commonly important in Brazil. In-store shoppers can very quickly see what's available and what's in stock. But now, online, the options aren't as clear-cut. With home delivery and in-store or curbside pickup, it can be hard to figure out what will be fastest or most convenient. In some markets like the US, especially where I live in New York, there's an expectation of same-day or 2-day delivery to your home for free. In other markets like Brazil, pickup at store helps with security concerns around package delivery. Pickup can also be preferred to ensure that the item is free of damage before accepting it, or to ensure that it's not a counterfeit version of a brand name product. And if it's not right, the online shopper needs to know that they're protected. They want to know, as they're making selections, that they can return unwanted products easily and get their money back quickly. Amazon makes it easy in the US by letting you drop off an unwanted product at the shipping location for free. These days, you don't even have to pack it for shipping anymore. In other markets, people have the option to have the delivery person wait while they try before they buy. This gives shoppers more confidence to try online shopping. So what does all this mean for your business? It means your e-commerce experience needs to do certain things. You need to use consumer-oriented language to make it easy for shoppers to find what they want. You need to give them easy ways to compare products, not just price, but the benefits of each option. You need to provide reviews and testimonials from trusted sources to help shoppers understand if the product's right for them. You need to give shoppers a variety of options for delivery and pickup and make sure the timing of those options is clear. And you need to make returns hassle-free. And there are topics that you may want to explore more deeply to understand how to make your online experience better. For example, you may want to explore what's the best way to organize your site or app for shoppers, and how does that differ from the in-store experience? You may also want to explore what tools and content shoppers need to understand if a product's right for them based on the key attributes of your category. Is there a way you can help people understand if the products they want are in stock at their nearest store? And what do shoppers need to know about your return policy and their options? Finally, what are the implications of cultural differences and preferences in local markets that should be considered in the design of your site or app? We certainly have found that one size does not fit all. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you, Yana. You've shared some very sound advice on how to get this right. And I was wondering if you had any real life example of someone who does this really well.
You know, I do. I've been really impressed, and I think it's a sign of the times that we're all doing home improvements, as we saw Penny in the UK fixing up her daughter's bedroom. We really see in the US that home improvement stores have done a great job. And I think, a lot of that has to do with immediacy. When people need something to fix something or want to do an upgrade to their home, they want to know that they can go get it or that they'll have it when they need it. And home improvement stores like Lowe's and Home Depot have really done an excellent job of showing, if you're having something delivered, how quickly can you get it? And where are the stores near you that have that item in stock today? So if you've got to have it today, you can get there and pick it up. So I think they're doing a really great job that is relevant to a number of categories to help people really understand their full array of fulfillment options.
Nice. That brings the theory to life very, very nicely. So with this, I would like to thank our speakers from our 5 different countries, as I mentioned at the beginning. Thank all of you who have been with us, and tell you that we would love to see you again on March 25 for our next Keys webinar. Have a lovely rest of the day, and bye-bye, everyone.